In 1989, these are old numbers, so you can only imagine what it is now. The EPA estimated that in 1 year, 5,705,000,000.
No.
Oh, trillion? No. Yeah, billion.
You're right.
705,670,380 pounds. How do they measure this? Let's just say a frickin' lot. Oh, scratch at it. A lot. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. It's hard for me not to get wrapped up about this. My kids, my grandkids are going to grow up in this, yeah? Are dumped in our country every year. Every year. And that was in 1989. You guys reckon it's more or less today?
More.
What about the ones we voluntarily shove down our throats? Azo dyes, trans fats, high fructose corn syrup, sugar, monosodium glutamate, all kinds of other excitotoxins and flavor enhancers. Look, it's estimated that the average American today eats 158 pounds just of sugar every year. Just sugar. Go back 2 generations ago, it was 3 generations ago, it was 14 pounds a year. And we wonder why guys don't look like Jimmy Stewart and gals don't have the waistline of Mary Tyler Moore anymore, right? We wonder. It's like, really? You're eating like a 20-year-old every year in sugar. You know? I mean, it's just crazy. Craziness. So let's look at this from a standpoint of how the body works. There are stressors that are going to be applied to our body every moment, every day, even back in the Garden of Eden. Okay? I mean, they're there. But our body is designed with a certain genetic potential to resist those stressors. All right? And so outside of some, unforeseen thing, you're walking along and Mount Vesuvius blows its top and you get melted by lava. Right?
Have to worry about stress.
Right. Well, I mean, it was a different kind of stress, back then, Obviously, it was that woman that he gave. Right. Anyway, so we have that. So that's our baseline. And so there's, these stressors of daily living that we're exposed to that add to that. Back in the day, it was feast or famine, right? Nowadays, it's other things. There's all kinds of other stressors that are being applied to our life. And what ends up happening is as those come into our body and our body has to deal with them, then our basal load goes up, even, just with the constant of the background stressors going on. UV radiation, CO2, whatever it is, right? Just the background stuff that, as far as we can tell, has always been there. So these new stressors come into our lives, and what happens is our threshold for tolerance becomes smaller. And so now we can get to a point where things that used to not push us over the edge can. And we wonder why. I mean, I never had a problem with it before. And it's because with this accumulation of these other stressors that are not naturally part of our environment, wouldn't naturally be affecting us, are pushing our thresholds up. And so what can end up happening is if we add in avoidable stressors, so let's go back one step. If you think of those as maybe just background air pollution, right? I mean, we could buy hybrids, we could do things like that, and maybe, questionably, that would improve our situation a bit. Clearly, air pollution is less now in LA than it was 40 years ago, right? I mean, we've done things that have improved the situation to a degree. So those background things, they're more than they used to be back in the days of Eden, but they're, we can kind of control it. But then there's the avoidable ones. Things like, it's always funny when people say it's so hard to quit smoking. I'm going, it actually takes no effort whatsoever to quit smoking. You realize that? I mean, there's no effort in it. Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, on a fundamental level, not a psychological, psycho-spiritual level, just fundamentally, right? I mean, it takes effort to actually get in your car, drive to 7-Eleven, walk into the store, pull out your wallet, ask for a pack, pay the man or the gal, bring it out, open the package, pull it out, stick it in your mouth, find something to light it with, light it, suck in, blow out. I mean, there's a lot of steps involved there. So when I say avoidable stressors, I mean, it's like you could clean your house with white vinegar, but you choose to use 409. And there's reasons you choose it, but nonetheless, it could be an avoidable stressor. And what that does is it pushes it up to a point where the body starts reacting to approaching our threshold. And so we start feeling some of those things, anxiety, what have you. And so one of the challenges with something that is in reality difficult to quit, like smoking, is that the very irony is that as we approach that threshold, what do we desire more of? The smoking. Because at least we're unaware of the fact that we're about ready to blow the top. It doesn't do anything for lowering the threshold, it just feels like it that we're not approaching it anymore. And then what ends up happening is ultimately at some point we crest our thresholds. And the act of cresting the thresholds actually causes somewhat permanent damage to the system. And it now, although its original genetic potential was here, what ends up happening is our new potential is lowered. And so what we end up doing is we go, well, I used to be able to drink like a fish, run like a gazelle, whatever, I used to be able to do those things, and I don't like the fact that my lifestyle has led me to a point where I can't do those things anymore, and even when I try to do right, I feel lousy, so I go to the pharmacist, right? I go to the true witch doctor, right? Pharmacy means witchcraft, right? Right. In Greek, that's what it means. So pharmacy, witchcraft. So I go to the witch doctor, and I get my potions and my tinctures. And what it does is it artificially increases my threshold, right? So I take the blood pressure med, and my blood pressure is artificially suppressed. But the very act of taking that, there's a reason why it says, here's the things it's good for, and here's all the ways it can kill you, is because it adds stressors in. So the irony is, now our bio load of these stressors is going up, and what ends up happening over time? We need more or less of the medications? More, right. So we need more. So what we do is we just keep adding more. Now, although this is a really sound economic model, for the pharmacists, for the drug companies, for the lobbyists, for the politicians who skim the money, for the political pundits that get their kickbacks, by hosting radio shows and television shows and all that other crud. Yeah, I mean, it's a really good economic model, not so good biologically. And so I use the example of medications here simply from the standpoint for you to understand that as you're trying to gather information about this issue of toxicity and bioloads and all this other stuff, there's a lot of money behind it on all sides. And so at some point you're going to have to just ask, where does the information sit with you philosophically? Because don't get into this elitist thing that you think all of a sudden, ooh, well, so-and-so said it, and he's got multiple letters or she's got multiple letters after their name, so obviously they know more. Depends. If all you've studied is under that mode of thinking, that's all you know, and you'll go to your death thinking it's true. As an example on this, and I just want to use this only so that you understand, because this one's so well documented on how drugs, you can't read it, so I did it here so I can read it and not mess it up. The